My dear friend, you've imagined it, you have felt it, you have seen it vividly in your mind, and now you're starting to wonder, is it working? Is it coming? Should I keep going or let go? Let me tell you something eternal. The moment you imagined and felt the desire as real, it was done. It may not yet be visible to the eyes, but the seed has been planted in the unseen. And just like a seed under soil, the signs that it's growing aren't always loud, but they are unmistakable. So today, I want you to hold on, not in desperation, but in quiet confidence. Because if you're experiencing these signs, you're not waiting for the wish to be fulfilled, you're already in it. When you've truly entered the state of the wish fulfilled, something remarkable happens. Even when nothing seems to be changing on the outside, you begin to feel calm on the inside. This calm isn't forced. It's not something you fake to look positive or strong. It's real, natural, and deeply rooted. You could be surrounded by the same problems, the same delays, the same lack of evidence, but you feel unbothered, as if the world's noise has been turned down. You no longer need outer proof to believe in your desire, because your inner conviction has become stronger than what the five senses report. It's like standing in the middle of a storm, and instead of reacting, you observe. You feel grounded. Your mind isn't racing to fix, chase, or prove anything. You know something deeper has shifted. This kind of peace is not passive, it's powerful. It tells you that you've already made the inner leap, and now you're simply walking through time, letting reality reorganize around your assumption. You're no longer triggered by delays or silence because you know you've already received what you asked for in the unseen. The outer world might still look the same, but the inner reality has already changed. And you can feel it. Detachment from the outcome is one of the most misunderstood signs of true manifestation, yet it's also one of the most powerful. It doesn't mean you stop caring about your desire. It means you no longer need it to feel fulfilled. The desperation fades. The obsession with timing disappears. You stop constantly looking for signs or asking when it will come. It's not because you've given up. It's because something deep within you knows it's already yours. This shift happens naturally. You're not forcing yourself to let go. You simply begin to live as if it's done. You wake up with a different energy. You no longer act from the place of trying to get something. Instead, your actions, thoughts, and energy start flowing from the place of having it. There's a lightness in your being, as if the pressure has lifted. The grip that once tightened around your desire is gone, replaced by quiet assurance. You may even forget about the desire for moments or hours, and when it returns to your awareness, it feels calm, not urgent. That's not losing focus, that's alignment. You are no longer vibrating from lack, but from fulfillment. This detachment doesn't disconnect you from the desire. It connects you more deeply to the version of yourself who already has it. And that's the real shift. As you persist in the assumption that your desire is already fulfilled, something subtle but undeniable begins to occur. Reality starts to echo what you've imagined. It may not arrive as the full-blown manifestation right away, but the reflections begin to surface. You'll notice phrases, images, situations, and symbols showing up in your environment that feel uncannily familiar, as if life is mirroring the inner world you've been dwelling in. These are not coincidences. They are soft confirmations that the inner work is working. Perhaps you hear someone speaking about the very thing you desire, or you scroll past a post that mirrors your exact thought. Maybe you keep seeing the same name, location, or number pattern again and again, things that weren't in your awareness before but now appear with frequency. These moments feel like winks from the universe, nudges that you're aligned. They don't carry the full form of your desire, but they carry its energy. They are previews like the first breeze before a season changes. What once felt like imagination now begins to feel like memory. You may even experience small events that mimic your end state in miniature, like mini manifestations. These experiences gently whisper to your subconscious, you're in the right place, stay here. They are outer validations of an inner change, not because you chased them, but because you've entered the version of yourself who lives in the wish fulfilled. And the world must now rearrange to reflect that state. When you've truly shifted into the state of the wish fulfilled, The things that once triggered fear, anxiety, or doubt begin to lose their power. The old reactions that used to rise up automatically, the panic when something doesn't go your way, the frustration when you don't get a reply, the sinking feeling when you see something that contradicts your desire, all begin to fade. Not because you're suppressing them, but because you're no longer identifying with the version of yourself that needed to react that way. You become aware of the space between stimulus and response. You notice the old thoughts wanting to come in, but you don't entertain them like before. There's an inner pause, a moment where you choose differently, not from effort, but from alignment. Your inner conversations begin to change. Instead of spiraling, you remind yourself of who you are and what you've already claimed. You don't get pulled into doubt because your foundation has become stronger than any temporary appearance. Situations that once made you feel helpless or triggered now feel neutral or even laughable. You start to see them as old patterns trying to test if you're truly different. And you are. You don't need to fight or argue with the world anymore. Because deep down you know that your assumption creates your experience. This knowing brings peace, and that peace gives you a new power. You are no longer reacting based on the old story. You are responding from the new identity, the one that already has everything it once wished for. There comes a moment after persisting in your assumption when time begins to dissolve. The urgency fades. The calendar no longer controls your emotions. You're no longer watching the days go by, counting hours, or questioning how long it's been. The need to track progress weakens, not because you've stopped caring, but because you've stepped into a different relationship with time. One where you already feel the end as real. You begin to live as if it's already yours, not pretending, but feeling. You catch yourself smiling for no reason, daydreaming less because the imagined desire now feels like a natural part of you. You no longer wait for someday, because in your inner world, it's already done. Your mind stops asking, when will it happen? And instead begins saying, of course it's mine. The imagined future becomes your current identity, and that shift makes linear time feel almost meaningless. Days may pass, and while others might think nothing has changed, you feel different. And that difference is everything. You start thinking, speaking, and responding from the version of yourself who already lives in the reality you once desired. There's no desperation, no counting down, no obsessing over signs. You moved into a timeless state. The now, where all things are possible, and that is where creation truly happens. So if you've seen yourself in any of these signs, if you've felt the calm, the detachment, the subtle echoes from your world, the quiet transformation in how you respond, or the fading relevance of time, know this. You are not waiting anymore. You are living it now. There's a shift that happens when you've truly embodied the state of the wish fulfilled. Your desire no longer feels like something outside of you. It doesn't feel far away or unreachable. It feels natural, familiar, almost ordinary in the most beautiful way. You don't place it on a pedestal anymore. It's not something you long for, it's something you live from. The desire begins to feel like it has already been absorbed into your identity, as if it's always been a part of you. You may even forget that it was once something you wished for. Instead of thinking, I hope this happens, you start to think and speak as though it already did. The mental distance between where you are and what you want begins to collapse. It no longer feels like a future possibility, it feels like a current truth. This isn't something you force, it's something that unfolds as you persist in imagining, feeling, and assuming the state. You begin to notice that you don't crave it the way you used to. That hunger is replaced with quiet confidence. The desire blends so deeply with your self-concept that it doesn't feel separate anymore. It just feels like you. And when that happens, your world has no choice but to reflect that inner union. When you're fully living in the state of the wish fulfilled, your actions no longer come from pressure, fear, or the need to make something happen. Instead, you begin to feel naturally inspired. Ideas arise effortlessly, nudging you gently rather than shouting at you with urgency. You feel drawn to certain conversations, places, or steps, not because you think they'll make the manifestation happen, but because they feel right, joyful, and aligned with who you've become. There's a noticeable difference between forced action and inspired movement. Forced action feels heavy. It's driven by doubt, lack, or a desire to control. Inspired action, on the other hand, feels light and organic. It arises from within, often when you're most relaxed or least expecting it. You might feel an urge to reach out to someone, change a routine, or pursue something new, not out of desperation, but from a deep inner knowing that this is the natural next step. You begin to trust that what you're doing is enough, and you don't second-guess every move. There's no more chasing or grasping. You're not acting to get the desire. You're acting from the place of already having it. That subtle shift in energy changes everything. Your steps are now rooted in fulfillment, not in lack. And that kind of action is powerful because it carries the vibration of the reality you've already accepted as yours. These signs are not small. They are sacred. They are proof that your inner world has shifted and the outer must follow. You are not hoping, chasing, or begging. You are being. You've entered the state of the wish fulfilled, and everything from this point forward is just a reflection of who you've already become. When you've truly entered the state of the wish fulfilled, the constant search for signs, reassurance, and external validation fades away. You no longer feel the urge to ask others for advice, check for signs every hour, or look for confirmation that your manifestation is on its way. You stop needing the world to show you something because your belief no longer depends on outer evidence. It comes from within. There's a deep sense of knowing that begins to rise inside you. You trust your own inner experience more than what your senses report. Even if nothing outside seems to have changed, you no longer panic or doubt. You've stopped giving authority to the outer world and instead you've claimed it within yourself. That shift is subtle but powerful. You're no longer reacting to circumstances or needing permission to believe. You simply believe, and that belief becomes your foundation. This is the moment when you stop asking, is it working or did I do it right? You already know it's working because you've felt the shift. You've stopped measuring your success by what you see and started measuring it by how you feel, secure, steady, fulfilled. You're no longer waiting for validation because your assumption has already become your truth. When you've truly assumed the state of the wish fulfilled, you begin to notice that your identity has quietly shifted. Not in a dramatic or loud way, but in a calm and lasting one. You're not trying to become something anymore. You've simply started living from a new version of yourself. The thoughts you think, the emotions you feel, the decisions you make, they all begin to align with the version of you who already has what they once desired. You no longer relate to the version of yourself who is waiting, hoping, or doubting. That identity feels distant, like an old story you've outgrown. Now, you respond to life differently. You speak differently. Even your self-talk transforms, not because you're forcing affirmations, but because your inner concept of self has changed. You've internalized the outcome as part of who you are. This shift is often quiet. Others may not even notice it first, but you feel it deeply. You carry yourself differently. You begin to expect different results because your sense of self has expanded. You no longer chase the desire, you've embodied it. And because of that, your outer world will eventually have no choice but to reflect the truth you've already accepted within. So don't give up, not because you're trying to force something into existence, but because deep within you already know it's done. Trust that knowing. Nurture that inner stillness. Stay loyal to the unseen and walk confidently in the world as the version of you who already has it. Thank you for being here, for choosing to rise above appearances, and for daring to believe in your own unseen power. You are the operant power. It's all unfolding now, perfectly, inevitably, and in divine order. With all my heart, thank you.